Hi everybody, I'm Danielle Dietrich and welcome to my YouTube video. So today I am going to be talking about the concept of affiliation as it relates to different certifications. So affiliation is a concept that is brought forward through the Small Business Administration regulations. And it also comes into play for disadvantaged business enterprises or airport concessions, disadvantaged business enterprises. So we'll just speak of them as just DBE in general instead of going through the letters each time. So it comes into play there, and then also in some other certifications such as woman-owned small business or veteran-owned small business. So affiliation is important because it helps determine your business size and whether your business size meets the standards to be considered small for any of these programs that are aimed at small businesses. So what does affiliation mean? Affiliation means that one business is controlled or has the power to control another business, or that a third party has the power to control both businesses. And control could either be affirmative or negative, meaning that a minority shareholder or partner can have influence over the actions or decisions of a business. And it can also happen indirectly through intermediaries or relationships. And there's a whole bunch of different factors that the SBA looks at to determine affiliation, such as ownership, management, previous relationships, and contractual relationships. And the analysis is based on a totality of the circumstances, not just like a checklist, it's looking at the whole picture. And they can find affiliation even if there's not like one single thing to throw to show that there's control, but there's all these different things that kind of play into it. That can be enough. So affiliation, there's pages, numerous pages in the regulations that describe how affiliation is considered. So this is going to be a high-level overview, but this is probably also going to be one of my longer videos because there are just so many different things that they look at. So like I said, affiliation can affect your business because if you're in a program that needs to be considered small or you're trying to get into a program that is considered for small businesses, this is going to be an issue. Your business, may have a relationship with another business, and sometimes affiliation is okay from a size standard because if adding your two businesses together, your amount is still under what SBA considers small, then you're okay. From that standard, you might have issues with independence and control, but just from size alone. So the SBA size standards, for those of you who aren't familiar or who are new to this, there's a big table that you can find on the SBA's website, and it lists all the different NAICS codes that are out there. And for each of them, and you can do searches, so you don't have to scroll through everything. For each of them, it'll list what the size standard is. It's either in gross receipts or in number of employees. So receipts or employees. Most of them, it's going to be receipts. There's a few where it's number of employees, but not a whole lot. So for the most part, it's going to be based on receipts. So to qualify for any of these programs, you need to be under that number. Now, some of the programs may also have a smaller ceiling, so you got to be aware of that. But there are some exceptions to the affiliation rule. So business concerns owned by investment companies licensed under the Small Business Investment Act aren't considered affiliate companies. And that's a very, very niche sort of exception there. Another exception is business concerns owned and controlled by Indian tribes, Alaska Native corporations, Native Hawaiian organizations, community developed corporations, so CDC, you might have some of those in your area, or wholly owned entities of these groups aren't considered affiliates of those entities or with other concerns owned by these entities due to common ownership or management. Also, business owners that lease employees from companies primarily engaged in leasing employees or entering into a co-employer agreement with a professional employer organization, a PEO, aren't affiliated with that isn't affiliated with the leasing company or PEO. That's not going to be an affiliation based solely on that leasing agreement. So if you are hiring contractors, contract employees, from a contractor agency, those, you're not necessarily be considered an affiliate with that agency. Another exception is when there's financial management or technical assistance under the Small Business Investment Act. The applicant isn't affiliated with those investors that are listed specifically. Those have venture capital operating companies, employee benefit and pension plans, charitable trusts, foundations, endowments, investment companies registered under the Investment Company Act of 1940, and investment companies not registered due to ownership by less than 100 persons. So again, that's going to be kind of a niche area. A firm with an SBA approved mentor protege agreement is not affiliated with its mentor or protege firm solely because of that agreement. If the protege firm receives assistance from the mentor under the agreement, which is kind of the whole point of the mentor protege relationship. So, if you have one of those, or if you're looking to get into one of those, if it's done right, it's not going to be an issue for your affiliation analysis. So member shareholders of a small agricultural co-op are not considered affiliates of the co-op by virtue of their membership. So if you have, several different small agricultural organizations that are kind of banding together in a co-op, so you are not then considered to be affiliated with those others. You can have a small business teaming agreements with one or more small business subcontractors, and submit an offer as a small business without regard to affiliation if each team member is small for the size standard assigned to the contract or subcontract. So teaming agreements, again, if done the right way, will not get you into trouble or get you affiliated with the businesses that you are teaming with. There's all these different types of affiliations. So those were some of the exceptions, but here's what it means to be affiliated, what they look at to determine if you are affiliated with another organization. And even if in reality, day to day, that other organization does not control you, if they have the ability to control you or to exercise influence, it's going to be considered enough. And these can be very tricky, detailed issues. I've handled some appeals on these issues where a, a Department of Transportation in a state was trying to deny my client's DBE certification because one of the owners, their spouse, owned another company that was in a adjacent industry. We'll say it wasn't the same exact thing, but it was adjacent. And so we had to prove that they were not affiliated because there was this presumption that they were because of the spousal relationship, which we'll talk about in a minute. So, the first type of affiliation is based on stock ownership, and this occurs when a person owns or has power to control 50% or more of a concern's voting stock or block of voting stock that is large compared to other outstanding blocks. So that is, again, all of these are going to be really, really fact specific. So I'm just trying to go and give you an overview. Affiliation can arise under stock options, convertible securities, agreements to merge, which are considered as if they have been exercised. So if these are out there that could be exercised, they are considered to be, active and potential affiliation. And so they're continued to be sort of alive and exercised unless the conditions are impossible to fulfill or the probability of the transaction is extremely remote. So, if you have questions about those sorts of circumstances, again, those are going to be fact specific. So it's best to contact myself or another attorney that is knowledgeable in this area to kind of help you walk through that. Another affiliation, this is one that we see come up often, is based on common management, which occurs when officers, directors, managing members, or partners who control one concern also control one or more other concerns. So if you are an officer, director, managing member, or partner in more than one business, this could potentially be an issue if you are looking to get a small business related certification. There's another concept for affiliation. It's called identity of interest. And this can arise among two or more persons with identical or substantially identical business or economic interests, such as family members operating concerns in the same industry or geographic area. And so that was the example that I talked about a few moments ago about my client that was trying to get DBE certification, but a spouse's business was causing an issue. And we did eventually work through that. Had to go up to the U.S. Department of Transportation to get a decision on that, but we were able to overcome that because even though this is a lot here, there's a lot you can do to show that you are not affiliated, which we can talk about in a future video. Another concept of affiliation is based on indirect control, which might occur when an individual, concern, or entity exercises control through a third party. And there is also the newly organized concern role. And this comes up quite often, and I have to advise clients about this because they see it as a workaround to try to get DBE certification, and it can really backfire on you. So the newly organized concern role occurs when former or current officers, directors, principals, stockholders, managing members, or key employees of one concern organize a new business in the same or related industry or field of operation. So I see this happen when, maybe an already certified DBE is growing and they want to spin off part of the business into a separate corporation. Maybe it's a child, maybe it's some, key employees, because they're maybe, running up against some size issues. So they spin that off, taking maybe a little niche of that industry with them, and that can still be considered two organizations that are affiliated under the newly organized concern. There's also an affiliation that can be found based on license agreements, which there would be licensing concerning a product or trademark that is critical to the operation of the licensee, unless the licensee has the right to profit from its efforts and bears the risk of loss. So you kind of see that sometimes it may be like a franchise situation, or when you're licensing a particular name or technology. There is also the ostensible contractor role, which occurs when a concern and its ostensible, very fancy word there, subcontractor perform primary and vital requirements of a contract or are unusually reliant on another. So again, it's kind of like a sham subcontractor sort of situation. And so these are some of the aspects they look at for affiliation. Again, it's very fact specific. It can be kind of a complicated analysis, but I wanted to give a general overview of this concepts and to give you an idea. So if you are facing this, that you can get a little bit of information, and then please reach out to me or another attorney who's knowledgeable in this area and give you some guidance. So for watching my video, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.